Hi, and so how are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. How's you?
Great. It's such a pleasure to connect with you here at Inclusive Africa. Is this your first time here?
It's actually my second time here in
Oh,
Kenya.
wonderful.
Beautiful country, beautiful atmosphere, and the conference as well. Very colorful, young people, innovators, and industry leaders as well. People who can influence change.
I
So
know.
it's just such a fantastic opportunity for me to speak here.
Yeah, that's great. And talking about industry, I guess one of the industries that connects us is financial and banking, right? So, my experience working in and with financial institutions for more than 30 years, I've learned a lot about the operation side of things and trying to bring inclusion into the fold of accessible services. But with you as, a young leader and entrepreneur, I'd love to hear more about you and how that affects you.
Um, where do I start? It's such a basket of challenges. A lot has been done, but the wheels of change we're moving quite slowly with this regard, especially in the visually impaired and blind space when it comes to accessing some of these platforms. Majority of the user interfaces are inaccessible. You have an issue of compatibility with regards to screen readers. There you are, you're trying to navigate, and all it just simply says blank, blank, blank. Meanwhile, you're trying to transact, and it's a problem on its own. Apart from that, then you're looking at the issue circumvented around USSD as well, which we also call it cell phone banking. With this, the issue is at times you need to listen to your screen reader, and then once you've get the information, then apply yourself. But then by the time you get to apply yourself, then it has already timed you out. So you're already out. So the frustration then comes in a sense where you have to keep going in to go out just to move on to the next page and the next page and the next page. And what I've come to realize now is, in my country, that the issue now is that every time you go in and out, you are being charged for it. So before you even transact, you're already losing your airtime, and then you're trying to access a platform where you also want to send someone money or you really want to transact. So by virtue of that, if you don't necessarily have the funds, then you can't simply access it. And then the challenges as well with the incompatibility of screen readers goes even far greater, because then you have this user interface. However, you're not even certain as to how to navigate it. Am I supposed to be using a top-down approach or a left-right approach? Does it have drop-down arrows? Where do I press send or finalize or okay and this, that, and the other? To an extent that majority of the time, then you will need a sighted person to come and assist you. And that on its own is a security risk, because now you're forfeiting your user credentials or you're forfeiting your PIN, and people are able to have access or to things that you don't necessarily want them to see. Do you know how difficult it is at times for you to be seated with a family member or a friend, and then you want to ask them, what's on my screen? And before they even answer your question, then the answer is, oh, could you borrow me 5,000? Because someone has already seen what your bank balance is, right? But it's not necessarily the type of the question, the answer to the question of which you have asked, but it's because of what they see. So from a privacy point of view, then you don't necessarily have privacy. So if we, in a sense, the standard of development can be a slightly a bit better, then it could try and assist us with regards to some of our challenges. And another challenge of which we're facing is, at times, majority of my community who are visually impaired tend to experience a whole lot of low academic level because of lack of access to other opportunities. Now, the thing is, the jargon in the financial space itself is also yet another issue.
So when you think about this jargon and you think about the language that is being used, I can't help myself to think about online education that is available for people in general, right? As to how to navigate, how to access these services. When I'm thinking about employment and all the tools and platforms that exist within the world of employment, I wonder, in your experience and just your perspectives, if you feel that they're enough. They're good enough that it actually provides the necessary information for people like yourself and myself to really achieve that independence and that level of literacy, financial literacy that drives to independence. I know from my perspective, one of the things that I deal with very, very often is that people think that because we are disabled or we're not working, we don't need access to a multitude of financial services. I'd love to hear more from your perspective, what you encounter.
Consolidations and summaries, big issues, big challenges. You have graphs and you're a visually impaired person, and then you don't have the description, so you can't make an informed decision moving forward. And then you look at access to opportunities where you, in terms of literacy and so on and so forth. Yes, fair enough. You can eradicate some of the challenges of which you're experiencing, such as transport, infrastructure, and so on and so forth. And you can be at home, and you'll be learning at home, which is fantastic for you. But then the issue of screen reader compatibility, when these applications or these platforms are being designed, because when you go in there, you're trying to learn. However, all you're just hearing is blank, blank, blank. Or sometimes even the screen reader itself would then lose focus, and you're not even sure as to where you are anymore. By virtue of that, then it leads to an intense level of frustration. And once you're frustrated, then you tend to give up because you are no longer encouraged to want to go and learn in these platforms. And then once you revert back and you sit back, and then you're just thinking the world is a very horrible place. However, hence I'm saying the wheels of change are changing, but they are rather changing very slowly. And we'd like for them to accelerate in speed so that we can have access to more access or accessibility towards these platforms so that we can better ourselves. It's not a case of we don't want to, but it's the discouragement of what you're going to experience within the user interface itself and the interaction thereof. Because independently, at some point within the application itself, you're going to need assistance.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, I know, when we had branch services, you go in a branch, you can get that extra support if you'd like. I feel like even desktop applications maybe give you a little bit more accessibility to in some ways because you can access more information and so on. But we live now in a world of mobile. We live now in a world where everything is fast and everything is changing rapidly from moment to moment, right? The minute the developer, the tester, deploys the application on your mobile, it's almost out of date, right? And you spoke about, you talked a little bit about discovery. I find that many people with disabilities who access services through these apps, as you mentioned, they don't have a clue as to navigate, how to navigate through them, whether they're top, bottom or left to right, whatnot. But I think a lot of that is because people who are designing these applications do not understand how assistive technology works, right? And I think that's one of the problems. And then I think one of the other problems that I always encounter is that they think about accessibility too late in the process, right? They don't think about how do you inject accessibility starting at the concept and the design, and then you walk accessibility throughout the entire life cycle, right? So from your experience, what has it been like when you're actually using a mobile app to access your services? Are you finding it more difficult than if you were to use a kiosk, for example? Or do you even use kiosks? Because I'm curious to hear. I mean, kiosks are fun to use, but yeah.
At least at the kiosk, there's always someone who's there to try and assist you, so that since you have any challenges, then the interaction is a lot better. Because the thing is, from a digital point of view, when these apps are being designed, the truth of the matter is, as much as we don't necessarily want to say it, is that disability really is an afterthought. We are always thought of afterwards, Only when you see a person with visual impairment, then you go, what about them, and so on and so forth. But now, when it comes to these apps, at times, I think the best app of which I feel I navigate better in is WhatsApp. And
Interesting.
but I've got a banking app. I sit right at an apex level in my organization. At times, one has to pay salaries, pay service providers, and
Right.
so on and so forth. And now you need assistance. You need help at all times. You need to sit down with someone of whom you trust, and maybe at the same apex level, because you can't sit with anybody lower. And times you run a risk of transgressing some of the HR policies of which you have within the organization, because someone must not see as to how much does someone actually gets paid,
Right.
or how much we use in operation and funds. So by virtue of that, now you're simply relinquishing information of which you are not supposed to. By virtue of that, you're transgressing on some of the policies of which the organization may have. But all of this is only based because you don't have the 100% ability to be able to navigate the app,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
even interact with the app itself. So by virtue of that, if certain things could change, and
What would it be? So in 30 seconds, we have about 30 seconds.
30
That's kind
seconds.
of wonder if you had one thing to change in financial and fintech, what would that be for you?
include persons with disabilities at the design stage. Right. So on site, start designing. On hindsight, having that ability to think about accessibility in the beginning, and then you move with accessibility right to the end. So accessibility should not be at the end or at the tail end of the design, but at the beginning of the design. If we do that in mind, then I guess we will eradicate all the challenges with which we are all facing as persons with disabilities.
I definitely agree with you, but I think I would have one more that I would add to, and sort of and tell people, you know, when I speak to financial institutions and large organizations, I kind of say to them, hey, you know, I think one of the important things about accessibility is if you treat it like security, as important as security, it then becomes a priority in your organization. It's not something that you're going to compromise or something that you leave at the end, right?
Certainly.
And so perhaps you have a better chance of accomplishing it. What do you think?
100%. No, I also think in terms of that, we have to prioritize this, because you see, the thing is, the more we look at accessibility, sometimes it also has an unintended benefit for others as well, whom didn't know that, oh, so this could be done in a shorter or in even a better way. So if we're looking at the globe and we're saying 1 in 6 individuals may have a disability, there's a lot of us that are here. And when you're talking visually impairment, there's a large population of persons who have visually impairment, low vision, and so on and so forth. If we can design this to a point where if you have a low vision, and then you can either zoom in, zoom out, and then also give feedback with regards to this screen reader compatibility, then I think we would accelerate the change that we want to see.
Yes, the use of responsive and personalization design,
100%.
right? Absolutely. Thank you. And I think together, I think if we keep working together, we're going to redesign the whole financial experience. What do you think?
100%. We definitely will. Look, we've already achieved the most difficult task, which was to sit on these chairs.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
100%. Thanks.
Thank
Cheers.
you so much, Senzo. This has been great. Thanks.
All right.